Hey there, so somebody watching this video is going to save a lot of money, and that's my goal today. I'm going to give you a lot of great information because I'm seeing a lot of folks that are moving to the state of Florida from outside of Florida. And they get in, they buy a house, they get moved in, and a year rolls around and that tax bill comes in the mail, the property tax bill, and it's a lot higher than they were anticipating. And I think there's several reasons for that, and I'm going to go over those reasons. I'm going to show you why the number that you're looking at on the listings on sites like Zillow.com or Realtor.com or Trulia or Redfin may not be correct. They may be a lot less than you will actually pay in property taxes once that tax bill gets reassessed after you purchase the property. So make sure you stick around to the end. I'm going to give you an example listing right now that has a tax bill listed right on that listing that's a lot less than your tax bill probably would be once you bought this property and that tax bill gets reassessed next year. So make sure you stick around. If you're not familiar with this channel, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I'm a longtime resident of Southwest Florida and Cape Coral, Florida specifically. I've been a full-time real estate broker here in Cape Coral for almost 20 years now, and I put out a video like this every single week on this channel. Just really try to give you a lot of great information. Sometimes we're looking at some fun real estate here locally in the area, but if you are the person that's considering a move to Florida, maybe you're moving to Cape Coral or moving to Fort Myers, or maybe you're looking at homes for sale in Punta Gorda or Port Charlotte or something like that, I want to invite you to hit the subscribe button so you can be around for these videos every week, because again, I'm trying to give you a lot of really good, useful information and create some value for you. I'm really just kind of applying for a job here because I'd like to be your realtor here in Southwest Florida when the time does come, and you do need a realtor here in Southwest Florida, whether you're buying or selling a place. And I would love to hear from you, and my contact information, of course, is right there on the screen, and it's also down in the description of this video. You can call, text, or email me anytime. I would love to hear from you and hear about your real estate goals. But with that pitch all out of the way, let's get into this tax bill situation. I really want to kind of dive deep on this. I want to explain, first of all, how our taxes function, at least here in Lee County, Florida, which is in the southwest section of Florida, and then I'll give you this example property, and I'm also going to show you how you can accurately estimate that tax bill, again, at least here in Lee County, Florida. So make sure you stick around to the end. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how our property taxes actually work here in Lee County, Florida. Okay, so let me start off by giving you kind of an overview of how our property tax system works. And really, I'm going to be speaking about Lee County, Florida. So this is Fort Myers, this is Cape Coral, this is where we're at down here. A lot of the other counties around the state of Florida work in the same way that Lee County does. I know Collier County is virtually identical, but if you're looking at other areas of the state, make sure you just check the individual rules and how everything functions in your specific county. So we're going to be talking about Lee County. But for Lee County, basically your property taxes come out at the end of the year. So the tax bills come out in arrears. Our tax bills come out in November, and that tax bill is a snapshot of the ownership and the value that that property had as of January 1st of that year. So it kind of lags behind a little bit, and I think this is one of the reasons that a lot of people get tripped up, and I'm going to go into that in just a minute. But just to break down how our taxes, how the breakdown of our taxes work right here, you've got a mixture of ad valorem taxes and non-ad valorem. Obviously, the majority of your tax bill will be your ad valorem taxes. So those are taxes that are calculated based on the market value or the assessed value of your specific property. So you have those, and then you have non-ad valorem portion of your taxes, which are things like fire assessments, trash pickup, things like that, stormwater maintenance, stormwater drain maintenance, and things like that. So it's the combination, the bill that you're going to get in November is the combination of those two things. Now our millage rate, at least right now in the city of Cape Coral, is about 15.46, which means about 1.55% of the assessed value of your property. That's going to be the amount of your ad valorem taxes. So they're going to take that and add it to the non-ad valorem, and that's going to be your tax bill for the year. So obviously the majority of your tax bill will be the ad valorem taxes. And right now it's about roughly 1.55%, at least in the city of Cape Coral. So there are a number of property tax exemptions here in the state of Florida. I'm not going to get into all of them. There are several different ones, and they're a little bit smaller, but the main one that we're focused on today is the homestead exemption, and that's given to anybody who's declaring that property in the state of Florida is their primary residence. It's kind of a misconception that you have to live here for 6 months and a day to call it your primary residence. It's really more about you have a Florida driver's license with that property address listed as your residence. You're registered to vote in the state of Florida, and that registered address is the address that you're claiming the homestead exemption on. And it's more about, you're not having another property in another state that you're also simultaneously claiming as your primary residence. So when you do claim it as your primary residence, you get roughly a $50,000 exemption. There's, again, some nuances to that, particularly for properties that are assessed at a lot lower value. But for most people, you're going to get $50,000 off of the market value of the home, and that's going to be your assessed value. That's going to be the value at which the tax assessor levies taxes, the ad valorem taxes against your property. So if you have a property that has a market value of $200,000 and you claim it as your primary residence, you're only going to get it taxed on $150,000 of that, and that $150,000 will be your assessed value. That's the amount that they're basing the ad valorem taxes off of. So in addition to that $50,000 off the assessed value, one of the main perks of a homestead exemption is it puts a cap in place on how much they can actually raise your assessed value every year. So in instances that happen often in the state of Florida, where you have property values go up a tremendous amount in a short period of time, like let's say from 2020 to 2023, when property values in some cases went up 60, maybe even 70%, obviously for somebody living here with a primary residence, to go ahead and slap a 60 or 70% increase from year to year on their tax bill would be a tremendous hardship. So the state government put in place what's called the Save Our Homes Act, and that put in place a 3% cap on the amount the assessed value, the taxable assessed value, can go up in 1 year. It's either 3% or whatever the CPI is, the Consumer Price Index. Whichever amount is lower, that's the cap that the state has put a limit on for these local taxing authorities in terms of how much they can raise that assessed value. And that relates to what we're going to talk about here in just a second, where people get tripped up because they're seeing a tax bill listed on a listing somewhere, and that tax bill is considerably lower than their tax bill is going to be because maybe that person owned that property for 15, 20 years as a primary resident and at primary residence, and so they've seen that 3% annual increase cap on there, and so their taxable assessed value is going to be considerably lower than what a new owner is going to pay once that property is reevaluated, reassessed at the current market value. So I'm going to get into that in just a second, but keep that in mind. Homestead exemption, you get the $50,000 off, but you also get a maximum 3% per year that the assessed value can actually go up. If you don't have it as a primary residence, if you don't have a homestead exemption, they still can't take you up 60 or 70% if we have one of those big market value jumps like we did here in recent years. It's just capped at a little bit higher rate. It's 10%. So they can only take your assessed value up 10%, whereas the primary residence is again 3% or the CPI, whatever's lower. So keep that in mind. So now I'm going to jump over and actually give you a real world example of an actual listing that's available right now, and what you're going to see in that listing as the current tax bill, and why that amount is significantly lower than somebody going in there and purchasing that property is going to see once that thing is reassessed next year. So let's get into that next. All right, so let's take a look at this piece of property. I really picked this out because it's got exactly the situation that we're talking about here, and this is actually a beautiful piece of property. It's over in the southeast section of Cape Coral. It's a direct Gulf access home, 1951 Southeast 32nd Street. It's listed at just under $950,000. It was built in 1976, so a little bit older home, but man, look at this corner lot that it's on. It's just a few minutes out to open water. It's probably got 200 feet of water frontage out there, so it's just a huge value in this property itself right there. The home's a little bit old. It's been redone on the inside, but that outside just has a tremendous waterfront, and this is the type of property that those folks that are looking for someplace to keep their 50 or 60 foot yacht, this is the kind of property that you need for it. So a tremendous amount of this value is wrapped up in that corner, quick direct access lot. And the inside's not too bad either. The inside's been completely redone. Maybe it's got a little bit lower ceilings, but it's got a brand new kitchen in it. Beautiful view down the canal there. and just a really, really neat piece of property, and it's listed at $950,000. But the reason I wanted to talk to you about this particular one is because these folks bought this property in 2013. The sellers of this property bought it in 2013, and if you go down here, if you're looking at the listing, let's say you're on Zillow or something and you're looking at this listing, you're going to see the tax bill on this property at $6,374. And you're going to think to yourself, my gosh, it's a $950,000 house and the tax bill is only $6,374. What a tremendous deal. The taxes are super cheap on this. I'm only going to have to pay $6,300 next year after I buy this property. And that's where a lot of people get hung up, and they get surprised by a tax bill that's maybe twice that. It probably will be twice that, quite honestly. And the reason that it's only $6,374 is, again, because these folks have owned this property since 2013, and they've had a homestead exemption. It's been their primary residence since 2013, and like we just discussed, that means they've enjoyed that 3% assessed value cap every year since then. And there's been some years since 2013 where the values have maybe gone up and maybe even gone down, and there's really not a cap on how much they can lower it. So if the value goes down, your taxable assessed value will go down with that market value. And then when it comes back up again, as it always does in the real estate market, they're once again they're hitting that cap of 3% or the CPI, whatever is the lower amount. So they paid a little bit over $400,000 for this in 2013, and their taxable assessed value right now is just under $400,000. So that means their ad valorem taxes are only being levied against about $392,000 is as the taxable assessed value on it. And that has everything to do with, well, the homestead exemption with the $50,000 off the taxable assessed value is a big part of it, but the bigger part of it is that annual cap that they've seen for the last 12 years. And what's going to happen is somebody's going to buy this property, and let's say they close on it next month. Well, they're going to get a low tax bill because November rolls around, the tax bill comes out in November, and it's based on the ownership snapshot of what that property looked like in January 1st of this year. So January 1st of this year, the sellers still own this property, and so all of those homestead exemptions and all those caps are going to be still wrapped into this year's tax bill. But when that thing gets reassessed next November and the new tax bill comes out under the new ownership, that owner is going to have owned it since January 1st, and it's going to be reassessed at the current market value. So that $392,000 assessed value is going to jump all the way up to, let's say they buy it for $900,000. It's going to be probably a little bit less than $900,000 because the tax assessor does a pretty good job of making the market value come in at a fair amount less than the actual purchase price. It's not really, they're not taking that hard value of the purchase price and applying it to the market value of the property. They usually build in a little bit of a buffer there, so there's not too many people coming in and arguing with them over what the market value actually is. So still, if they come in at $850, now you're talking about a tax bill that is over doubled, at least on the ad valorem side. So that's why people are getting tripped up. They're expecting a $6,300, $6,400 tax bill on this because that's what they saw on the listing. But in reality, once that tax gets reassessed after they've owned it for some time, it's going to more than double. And at that point, if they have a homestead exemption, then those exemptions start all over again. So then if the property value does go up, or when it goes up, because it will, then they're capped at the 3%, and they're going to enjoy these same benefits that these sellers have enjoyed for the last 12 years. So that's really the long and short of it. That's where people are getting tripped up, and I see it all the time, and it's a big hardship if you're thinking you're only going to pay $6,400 a year in taxes, and you get that reassessed bill and it's $14,000. So now, how are you going to go about determining what that tax is actually going to look like? Well, the best way that I found is to use the Lee County Property Appraiser's tax estimator, and I'm going to get into that next. So I'm going to show you how to use that right now. All right, so now that we know the pitfalls of what to look out for here, how are we going to accurately predict what the tax bill will actually look like for you as a new purchaser of a home here in Southwest Florida? The best way I found to do it is to use the Lee County Property Appraiser's website, and they actually have a tax estimator there right on the website. So let me show you how to do this. First of all, the Lee County Property Appraiser's website is leepa.org. And if you go to leepa.org, this website right here will pop up, and you just scroll down a little bit, and there is a site address search right here where you can actually search for the property that you're looking at. So if you have a property that you've picked out that you're making an offer on, just plug that address right into the search parameters right here, click search, and it's going to pop up right here, and the search results have a bunch of links on the right side of the page, and you'll notice one of those links says tax estimator on it. So if you click on the tax estimator and get past this little disclosure there, it'll bring up the tax estimator for this particular property. And again, this is the same property that we've been talking about right here, this 1951 Southeast 32nd Street. And it's pretty simple. You just put in what your potential purchase price would be. So let's say we're going to buy this property for $850,000. Click calculate, and it's going to tell you exactly what your taxes will be for that property. And again, see, they say the estimated assessed value is $765. They build in 10 or so percent, try to take it underneath what you're actually paying for it. So they're not going to assess that right at the amount that you paid for the property. They're going to build in a little bit of a buffer there and assess it at a little bit lower amount. So $765 is the assumed assessed value that they're going to, let's say they reassess this property next year at $765. Again, there's that current millage rate we talked about, basically 1.55% against that estimated assessed value, and you add in some of the non-ad valorem taxes, and your estimated taxes are kicked out at $11,827, and that's without a homestead exemption. So if you did get that homestead exemption and you did get that $50,000 off the assessed value, then your estimated tax bill would be about $11,187. And this is pretty darn accurate. I found it to be pretty darn accurate. It's not going to be dollar for dollar to what that says right there, but at least it's going to give you a really, really accurate idea of what you can expect to pay in taxes next year. And obviously, almost $12,000 is a heck of a lot more than $6,400. And so at least you can anticipate that added expense. So leepa.org, their tax estimator, is a hugely important tool, at least if you're looking at properties. This is anywhere in Lee County, so this is Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, North Fort Myers, all of these areas around here in Lee County, Florida. And it's a very, very useful tool for the folks that are looking at moving here to make sure that you are inspecting what you expect, that your expectations meet reality in terms of what your tax obligations are going to look like next year. So important tool, make sure you use that. So that's really the long and short of it. There's obviously some nuances and some additional details, and we could really get into that one-on-one if you'd like to. Feel free to contact me anytime. I'd love to discuss this with you further. But bottom line is, you really need to make sure you're using the accurate tools like that tax estimator on leepa.org, and you're not relying on numbers that you're seeing on Zillow or Realtor.com or the listings, because again, the tax bills, the tax amounts that you're seeing on those listings may very well not apply to you, and they may very well be, in some cases, over double what you're seeing on those listings. So don't go by the listing number, go by the tax estimator. If I can help you out with that, certainly give me a shout. I would love to hear from you. Call, text, or email me. My contact information is right on there. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you at least got some good information out of it. These videos aren't the most entertaining, but a lot of good information was contained in this video, and I think it'll help you out quite a bit. So if you did get something out of it, do me a favor, hit the like button for me, because it just helps me out, helps the channel out. And also, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you can be around for these videos every week. I promise we do some a little more entertaining videos on a weekly basis, but even the ones like today, where it's just really good information, I think you'll get a lot out of it. So I think it would benefit greatly if you are interested in Southwest Florida, whether you're considering moving here or you live here now. You just want to keep up on everything. So make sure you hit that button, and I'll see you in the next video here in just a few days. Reach out to me, call, text, email me if I can help you with anything, and I'll see you soon.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding.